Hello, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to Farseer Friday. If you're new around here, my name's Kit, and this is my world. Thank you very much for joining me. This is the first of a special new series of vlogisodes, I suppose. It's a little bit vloggy, it's a little bit reviewy. This is going to be... On Fridays, I will be talking about the Farseer books by Robin Hobb, the Elderlings Chronicles, the Chronicles of the Elderlings? Something to do with Elderlings. Do you know what? I'll put a caption up because I can't bloody remember. But anyway, this is a series of 16 books so far. I think there might be a 17th now. There are more on the way anyway. This is a series of 16 books that I read a long time ago, and they kind of messed with my head, and then weird memory stuff started happening, and I kind of condensed all of my memories of everything that I had read in the 16 books. I condensed it into the first trilogy, the Farseer Trilogy, and for a while now I've been describing my emotional reaction to the Farseer Trilogy as being one of excellently written books, but they traumatised me and I'll never read them again. But here I am reading them again. I announced it in a recent video, and just about everyone in the comments thought that it would be a good idea for me to keep you updated on my progress as I reread my way through all the Farseer books by Robin Hobb, from 1 to 16, possibly 17 if I get my hands on it. So that's the plan. Of course, the best laid plans of mice and men gang after glay, and who knows what could happen. There could be hurricanes and typhoons, there could be a zombie apocalypse. Oh no, we've already done that one, haven't we? Who knows? Obviously, it's a lot of books to get through. I have good intentions, but we'll see where we are. At the moment, I can tell you that I've forgotten where I am. Bear with me, I shall check my trusty Kindle. I'm on chapter 19 of the first book. The first book, by the way, is Assassin's Apprentice. This is book 1 of the Farseer Trilogy. I'm right back at the very beginning of where it all started, and I've been triggered already. I should probably point out that these books are full of animal triggers. If, like me, you're very emotional about animals and get quite upset if bad things happen to animals, then approach these books with a certain amount of caution. I've been using a barge pole, but as it turns out, forewarned is forearmed, and so this time around, because I kind of knew what to expect, it hasn't affected me so badly. I was still triggered. I've still done quite a bit of crying and snivelling. Snot was involved. But I'm able to get through it, and more importantly, I know about the biggie. There is a biggie, and it's coming up later. I had remembered, possibly misremembered it as being at the end of the first trilogy, but I'm now thinking that it may have been much further along in the series of books because my memories are all scrambled. But based on the pacing that I've been experiencing thus far, I think it's safe to assume that the big trigger is quite a long way off yet. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I should probably explain what the books are about. They're written in the first person, past tense, by the main character, Fitzchivalry Farseer. He's kind of writing his memoirs. Do you mind? I'm making a video here. Aeroplane. I don't think he heard me. How very rude. Anyway, back to the Farseer books. So Fitz gets taken into the care of the stable master, essentially, and raised amongst the horses and the dogs, and is pretty much treated like shit by everyone because he's a royal bastard. The king, however, King Shrewd, is quite shrewd, and he realises that a royal bastard could conceivably be a knife against his throat if the royal bastard falls into the wrong hands, or he could be a very useful asset and a tool. So Fitz will be a royal assassin. He will have royal blood. He'll be accepted as a diplomat in foreign countries because although he's a royal bastard, he still is part of the Farseer line and can speak on behalf of the king. But he's also going to be trained as a spy and an assassin, and he's going to have all of these skills, and he's going to use them to further the interests of Shrewd and his political interests and the interests of the kingdom at large. It's all very, very exciting, and I do love a bit of intrigue, and this book is full of intrigue. But it's also full of other stuff as well, and it tends to be the other stuff that I remember from my previous read, and that's where the problem is. Now, there are two schools of magic in this world, and one school is called the wit, and people with the wit are described as witted, and it's kind of a nature magic. It's being able to communicate with and to a certain extent bond with animals, and you can speak to them in a rudimentary sort of way depending on how intelligent the animal is, much like speaking with human beings in a rudimentary sort of way depending on how intelligent the human being is. But Fitz has this skill. He's witted. He's always had it. It gives him the ability to make very, very close friends with animals and communicate with them in a way that human beings can't. He can use their senses. He can see through their eyes. He can hear what they're hearing. Crucially, he can smell what they're smelling. If there's someone creeping up, he can probably catch a whiff of it through a local animal's nostrils long before his own nostrils pick up the scent. So this can be a very useful skill. The animals help him a lot throughout the books. It's also an emotional trigger for me, at least, because, of course, he gets to suffer through the animals. He gets to experience their suffering, and that's quite vividly described. And by the way, I should point out that these books are exquisitely well written. It's just gorgeous language. It's really nice descriptive writing, excellent dialogue, everything about the books. They're just really well done. So the wit is Fitz's first skill. He also can do other things that are associated with the wit, like he can repel people if they're threatening him and various other stuff that, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't ever get fully explained, although you do find out a lot more about the wit as the books progress. The other school of magic is called the skill, an inherited trait that's passed in the royal bloodline. And skilling, by skilled people, is basically a form of telepathy. I don't like the skill. I think it's kind of stupid, but it's very difficult for me, having read the Catherine Kerr books, which have by far the best system of magic I've ever read and probably ever will read, because it's so grounded and it feels so real, and it's based so much on ritual and so much on actual magical practices from cultures around the real world. Skilling feels a little bit like a poor man's version of scrying from the Catherine Kerr books, but with limitations that I just find frankly annoying. Anyway, the skill stuff I don't particularly like, and it's not so much that I don't like telepathy as a magical system. I think it's great. I just don't like the way it's used in these books. I don't like all the murky stuff around it. I don't like the way it's taught to the main character. I don't like the skill teacher, nor will you if you read the books. But also, I love the wit stuff. You see, I'm an animal person. I really love the idea of being able to communicate with animals. And so on my first read through of these books, I kind of obsessed over the wit stuff, and I focused most of my energies, and certainly my memory seems to have latched onto all the stuff involving the animals, to the exclusion of some of the other stuff in the books. Although, as I'm reading, I am starting to gain more and more memories, more and more remembrances of stuff that's coming up in the later books. But the animal stuff is brilliant, but it's also full of triggers because bad things do happen. Anyway, this is the world in which we find ourselves, and introduced in book 1 are the Red Ship Raiders. These are people who come in red ships across the ocean, and they plunder, but they don't so much as steal stuff as destroy stuff, and it all seems very wanton and very it's difficult to understand what their motives are early on in the series. But the Red Ship Raiders come, and they start off by destroying stuff all along the coastline, but then they start kidnapping people, whole villages full of people, and doing something to them, and then returning them as kind of zombie type characters. Although they can still talk, they can still function, but they've got no soul, and they're very destructive. They will kill you, they will try and steal all your stuff, they may even try and eat you. They're disgusting, they're despicable, they become filthy and rotten and gangrenous, and they're nasty. They're zombies, basically. So the Red Ship Raiders arrive, create havoc all up and down the coastline, and turn people into zombies. So the king must deploy all of his best assets, he must deploy his skill users, and he must deploy his new assassin, Fitzchivalry Farseer, to do diplomatic assassinations and try and save the kingdom from the Red Sea Raiders. And this is kind of where we're at the moment. So I'm up to chapter 19 of 24 in the first book, plus an epilogue, and where I've just left it, we're about to go on a diplomatic mission, and Fitzchivalry has been given his target. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it for now. What I will say is I'm really loving it. I'm loving it at least as much as I loved it the first time round, possibly a little bit more, because I understand the world and I know where it's going. I'm remembering. I'd forgotten a lot, but it's all come flooding back, and I'm remembering where it's going, and I'm excited about where it's going. I'm very, very excited about a new character who's going to be coming into it, my favourite character, and I'm also excited about a character who's already in it but is going to be developed a great deal more over the remaining books. So I'm excited, I'm enjoying it, and unlike last time, I'm not finding it traumatic, although it's possible that last time I wasn't finding it traumatic in book 1 anyway. I think the trauma grows and develops throughout the books. It aggregates. There are lots of small traumas that build up and build up and build up throughout the books, and then you get hit with a big whammy and you crumble and have a nervous breakdown, or at least that was my memory of what happened to me. But so far it's going very well. I highly recommend these books to anyone who likes fantasy. As I say, they're beautifully written and a really interesting and unusual story, and great, gritty, three-dimensional characters. The books are kind of a little bit bleak and depressing, but I kind of like that. Watch out for animal triggers. And stick with me as I continue to update you on Fridays, on Farseer Fridays, as I progress through the series. But I think that's enough for now, so I'm going to call it a day and say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you haven't already, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, share, do all the good stuff, and I will see you next time. See you later.